where the fun begins.
Hello, welcome to the council. We begin tonight's meeting of the council by calling the council to order. Hello to everyone, and thanks for joining us. The council is a live Twitch talk show and podcast discussing Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm Elise, and with me are my fellow council members, Magic Ace.
Hello.
Redna.
I'm not with you, I'm against you.
Okie dokie then. And Sakari.
And I am alongside you. I suppose that means I'm with you, right? Or
so you guys are just being difficult? Got it.
Yeah, pretty much. That sounds like a regular episode of the council, right?
This week we're going to talk about in-game economies.
Ooh. And after we talk about that in this beautiful live broadcast, you can find our recorded episodes everywhere that podcasts are found, including thecouncilswotor.com, which is our personal website. You can also check out our social medias, which is like Twitch, in case if you didn't realize this is the Council SWTOR on Twitch. Also, you can find us at facebook.com/thecouncilswotor, and Twitter is at thecouncilswotor.com. We also have a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/thecouncilswotor. And we also have, Google, whatever thing you want to search with, as Red put last week. I just say Google because it's in front of my face, but just Google us. We're there. We're pretty much everywhere. You can find us everywhere. Also, anywhere podcasts are found, just in case if you like podcasts.
Yes, indeed. I attempted valiantly, guys, to show our title graphic for the week, but it was blank for some reason when I showed the slide.
I saw that.
I was like, what?
Oh, the one with on my end that looks like a GTN kiosk? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I copy all of the slides, the images that I'm going to show into the show notes, so we know what I was intending on showing, but it apparently was not there this week. So be sure to stay tuned to the website, thecouncilswotor.com. I'll make sure it's there for anybody who's missing it. But anyway, yes. Okay, so let's talk about the icebreaker question. At least I have a graphic for this. Icebreaker every week is the question that we ask just to kind of get the discussion started. So for this week, guys, my friends, do you do any regular trading on the GTN? And if so, how is it going for you? Dare I ask Magic how it's going for you?
If you would like, I will humor you.
I might have put you first because I knew you had a lot to say. So.
Well, usually it's an ebb and flow of my mood, if I want to actually put the effort in or not, and whether or not I need the credits at the time. So currently right now I've needed the credits, and I've been making a killing. Right now, people are thinking since the new augments are about to drop that you're not going to want to buy these ones. Well, you would be wrong, because I'm making about 5.5 million per alacrity augment, the superior alacrity augments, and about 5 million per the superior critical augments. So while you would think that people are holding out for the new ones, the fact is some people aren't going to want to pay the money. If these ones are this expensive, they're not going to want to pay for the new ones. And it's supposed to help you with like Isaac's hard mode level content.
Can I ask a question
about that? How many people in the game are going to do that? So people are actually buying these ones up like hotcakes. Yes.
You were saying that the new ones haven't dropped yet. The brand new, what were they, 240?
It's going to be 240 something, right?
Something up there, yeah. So they were the ones that you were supposed to use to defeat veteran mode Isaacs. And right now there's a veteran mode Isaacs competition on, and those augments that you're supposed to use to be able to accomplish that have not yet dropped. How much sense does that make?
So there's two things. There's the hard mode, like Wings. It's basically like Wings of the Architect type kind of a deal. Like you only get it if you beat this sort of thing. Now this item is always going to be available if you beat him in hard mode. However, there won't be legacy bound. They'll be bound to whatever tune that you get it on. Right now, why people are rushing to get it at a certain time is because not only do they want the achievement, which by the way you can get in story mode, so don't panic everybody. There is still a chance. But the wing things that you get are actually legacy bound during this event, which is why people are trying to rush and get it. So personally, I do think it's kind of crap that they're supposed to help you, but they're not out yet, and they didn't give us time. But I think that's a discussion for a different council. So, yes, I acknowledge what you're saying, and I do understand. I have a lot to say about that, but that's not on topic with this one. So
You're right, it's not.
I will
I
table
derailed
that.
us, and then that was my fault. I just wanted to like stop and like
No,
ponder
it
over
is.
the mystery
It's a lot of
that is
crap.
that kind of thinking right now. But
But I will say the superior ones do pick up a lot of the slack, and that's why there's so much money right now, since people don't have access to the newest ones. These ones are helping out a lot more. And most of my tunes are still geared in the little purple augments, which up until like, a few months ago were the top ones. So
228.
right, only my tunes that I'm taking into hard mode and nightmare am I actually augmenting with the superior ones, because I'm making a killing off of them, so I don't want to waste them on tunes that I'm not actually playing. So I'm selling them on the GTN. I'm making a killing. My husband's been wanting the 2-lot cord armor for 3 years. I made so much money. I made 50 million this last week on the GTN just in selling augments, nothing else, just augments. And so I bought him the 2-lot cord armor. I finished up the last 2 crafters I needed. I bought the Tatooine Stronghold and completely unlocked it. I finished unlocking the Embarran Train. I finished unlocking Manon. So I have all of them now fully unlocked because of me making that much money in 1 week. Literally just crafting and logging off and going doing laundry and stuff and coming back and popping them on the GTN. So how do I do this regularly? Kind of, but not like regularly as in like every week or every day. It's more like every couple of months I do this.
So you get in
it
there for a
usually
while.
sustains me. Yeah, it sustains me for a bit, and then once I'm starting to need money again, I'm like, I guess it's time to craft. So I go in and do all that crafting. But see, you need 2 of those purple charge matters transubstantiators. You need 2 of those per augment. And my husband and I have just like completely tapped out our supply, so now I gotta go
Time for some
do a lot
G
more
ranked.
grinding for that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's also the thing, is on the time where I'm not putting them on the GTN a ton, I'm gathering those mats. Like, I am gathering them hard, so that way when I'm ready to start crafting stuff, I have 4 companions that are level 50 on my crafters, and I just throw them out there and they just start crafting, and the crits are amazing. Darth Hexa, by the way, the best. The best for crits. Like, I put 5 on there. I ended up with 8. She was supposed to craft 5. I ended up with 8, and I was like, that is just fabulous.
That's really cool.
So all the crits I'm keeping for my tunes, and the ones I'm actually crafting, I'm putting on the GTN. So that's been pretty nice.
Yeah, major gearing. My word, you must be the strongest economy out of all 4 of us, if I know what we're all up to. The strongest personal
come on,
economy.
look at Elise. She looks like she's totally into it.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I will say, though, if I find something really cheap, and I know it's expensive, someone like missed a 0 or 2, I grab that sucker up and put it back on there for a more expensive price. Or if it's something I've been looking for, I keep it, because I'm like that.
Yeah, that's the nature of paying attention, I guess, on the GTN. Now, Elise, word has it that you are broke because you have been buying decos galore in preparation for this last week's worth of stuff. How has everything been going in your personal in-game economy?
Yeah, I'm a spender. I don't make things. So, yeah. I occasionally will put up... I have a crap ton of chance tubes, chance cubes. That's what it was. So I'll throw those on every once in a while because I don't use them. But other than that, when I came in, the GTN, so when I started, it'll be 3 years actually, Memorial Day weekend, when I started playing this game.
Woohoo! Happy anniversary.
Yeah. The GTN was like just saturated. And like everybody was saying, just don't bother. Just to gather materials. I like to gather materials, but materials have also gotten decimated, which is something we need to discuss later. But with like...
I have a counterpoint on that. I actually think it's going to come back. We can talk about it here in a few.
I mean, it might, but with the command crates and people getting blue junk and green junk and purple, it kind of feels like a lot of people are using that to buy mats to then put on the GTN. Yeah.
See, I still go out and gather like crazy. I even have my husband, I'm like, hey, we're going to do these flashpoints. Gather everything you can. Don't leave anything left. He's like, okay, we go out to Zakul and gather stuff. Like, we're gathering all the time. And like, we have like this unspoken agreement that he knows I'll craft him his augments, but he's got to get all the crap for me to do it. So Like, I even make all of his kits and stuff. So we're looking for stuff all the time. And honestly, we both have stacks and stacks of Jawa junk in there, but we only use them when we don't have time to go gather. Like, we're saving them as our oh crap button, basically. Like,
Right.
oh man, we're super busy and we need some augments. We don't have time to gather stuff. That's great. We have Jawa junk. That's what we're saving it for. But we still gather all the time.
I like to pick up stuff. I have this thing I can't like pass. I cannot pass a resource. It doesn't matter.
I know,
what
right?
game I play. That is like my favorite thing to do. When I'm playing ESO, I will just sit there and spend hours just picking up stuff.
I apologize for it regularly during my streams. I'm like, you're gonna have to put up with me running around from resource to resource farming.
I cannot pass up picking up stuff. But yeah, so I buy, and then I look at Kirk and tell him to go sell my extra stuff for me, please, since he's Captain Spreadsheet.
Yes, Captain Spreadsheet. No kidding. That's hilarious. So you're managing to stay alive that way. That works. You know, a little bit of help from Kirk and resource gathering. But you're saying that the GTN, at least the resource market, is taking a hit right now. I think, you know, I was going to throw this counterpoint out there, but I think with the new conquest, we may start to see some use for all of those piled up older resources, because you have people crafting, you know, all the way up to dark projects and everything that's required in those, and that's pretty heavy on some of the older resources. So I think you may start to see there's a sink on the other side, and you may see it pull right. I don't know.
I hope. I mean, I have 2 tabs in my legacy bank just full of crap that I pick up all the time, and I've gone on and looked, and it just isn't.
Well,
I'll
please
put it
do
up, it
share
doesn't sell,
with
blah,
Magic.
blah, blah. It's not the new stuff, it's the old stuff, like the really low stuff, because I've been sitting on it for forever.
The reason why I say that is because I'm still leveling my arms tech a bit, so she still needs some crafting stuff. I'm looking all over the place. I'm like, level 4 and 5, crap, I don't have any of that stuff anymore.
The other thing that really made me upset too is when I started, that's when like the armor crafting pretty much had taken a dive too. So that's 2015. So when I started, everybody was just buying stuff off the GTN. It was GTN armor sets everywhere. And then also the orange shells had just started hitting the...
you mean the legacy transfer ones?
No, the shells that you would take the mods in and out of, but it wasn't like the blue and green stuff. I mean, yeah, it's not legacy, but you know, just the shells. That was also the big thing.
Those were the things you would buy from like the dark versus light vendor, or like the dark vendor and the light vendor, not dark versus light, but the actual original vendors a lot of time.
Or crafted, and that's what everybody was doing. And so like I was interested in like making pretty, you know, outfits and armor and stuff, and you know, I got waved off that too. So anyway, yeah.
Redna, what about you, sir? How have you been participating at all in the in-game economy here the last few weeks?
Well, in regards to the question about the GTN, no. I haven't been on it in months.
Okay, but you obviously, you have to have some way that you're paying for the repair bills for Nightmare rating. How are you doing that?
Yesterday, I went and did dailies for about 45 minutes before my operations group and earned $1 million or credits.
Yeah, a good set of dailies will do that pretty easy if you're doing it once a day. You know, do it for a month.
Yeah, I did Tatooine and Hada, got 1 million credits. I was done.
Oh, the heroics, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the ones that you can pick up on the fleet, and then when you do them, I just make sure that you do the bonuses, because the bonuses give you almost as many credits as the quest itself. Each quest is like 20,000 credits. So
totally worth it, and you need it because Nightmare rating takes so many.
Yeah,
credits.
I spent 400,000 credits in repairs last night.
Yeah, I'm used to spending about 200K for repairs on hard mode, and I got to Nightmare, and I'm like, oh, buddy, I'm gonna have to start doing this every day.
And when you're repairing a whole set of straight 248 rated gear,
oh my gosh,
it's expensive.
Yes.
With the new augments and everything so high rated, it's just bankrupting. My goodness. Nightmare rating is one expensive activity. That's why I'm quite a fan of them having some kind of elite material for elite gear crafting dropping in Nightmare operations, so that the poor people that are spending all this on repair bills at least have something they can turn around and sell, to kind of offset some of those costs. But I guess it is.
Are you kidding? the group we run
There's
with,
better
they'd
decos
be like,
there.
mine, and they'd be crafting all their stuff and be like, you can't have it, it's mine.
There's better decos. So does that mean Elise is not going to sign up as a numerator? What do I?
That's up to her. But yeah, the
I
How
would
decorations.
desperate are you,
love to
Elise?
have the decoration. I would love to have the decorations, but I do not have the patience for that. I know my limits.
I can
and
just see
respect
Elise
them.
now. Give me those decos, checking out, the tanks getting blown off of them. Awesome.
I've discovered that I can't, with the economy as it is now, with the like golden comms that you get, the command comms or whatever, you no longer have the original comms, or the comms after that, or the comms after that, or the gems. You have these like the gold little thingies. I can't even think of what they're called. But anyways, I've discovered with this and like the unassembled components, I am actually more into the unassembled components than the other stuff. I have stacks of thousands of those gold ones in my things that I can't even claim because you're capped at 3,000 for a legacy. So like each of my individual tunes have like 1,000 or 2,000 of those things. And what I'm discovering is, for me, they're practically worthless. Like I don't really need them. When I first get a tune to 70, I use those comms to get 230 gear, and then that's it. And I don't use those comms again. And then I cap back out to the 3,000, and I'm like that for months. Well, now I'm capped on this server, and I don't have any more slots. And I only have about 4 more tunes to get to 70. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with these? So I started farming Nightmare Nephra because she gives you a little over 100 unassembled components each drop. And so I'm like rotating those 70s out over and over again to get the unassembled components.
Just farming the
Right,
boss.
it's so much faster, and especially when you've got a group that they're in it for the same thing. I ended up having 700 components after spending about an in there doing that. And I was like, this was so much less painful than ranked PvP. Yes!
Completing weeklies. You can do it in a day, right? And just have all the stuff that you need to buy a piece of gear.
That's how I got my primary SWTOR killer to all 248s, is those components like that. And I'm like, man, I don't even know why I've got all these stacks of comms. Like, they're worthless to me. I wish they would make it easier to get unassembled components. That's the currency I wish they would fix.
Yeah. So let me answer this question myself. I can't answer this question. And I'm going to allude to my so I discovered a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago, 3 months ago maybe, a little niche on the GTN that I have been doing. It's not the most lucrative thing in the world. There's way more lucrative pieces, but by sheer volume, what I am doing is actually bringing in a decent flow of credits, and I'm kind of I'm playing with it with like as a petri dish. But because I don't want anybody to jump in and ruin my game here, I'm going to keep it secret. So I'm gonna play close to the chest and be a Sith and like die. I'm gonna take to my grave my GTN secrets. But I will.
Yeah, but you've got to share it with me at least, so that way I can confirm on the next episode whether or not you actually did have something, or if you just didn't want to answer.
You are the Xana to my Bane. I refuse to let you know a single thing. No,
just because I have a character name, that doesn't mean it's true. I mean, it is true, but that's not the point.
But the question is, do you do any regular trading on the GTN?
I do.
Is that a yes or it's a yes or a no?
I do very regular trading on the GTN. Yes, very regular.
And it's going well for you. You just don't want to divulge your secrets.
Yes, it's
okay.
So yeah, it's not the. I mean, I've got to kind of qualify that it's not the most lucrative thing, but what I'm doing it's growing. And I don't know where it's growing to, and I'm having a blast getting it there. I think it's going to turn into a disease, and it's kind of like Mentor, Directed 7. It kind of takes over all of the droids after a while. it's that kind of a thing. So we'll see what happens. I may end up the richest poor guy in the galaxy here pretty soon. Who knows? I may even end up a hut. We will see. Okay, so now that I've absolutely wrecked that conversation, Elise, would you like to take us into the question of the week? And how about I send it to chat?
Yes, please do.
That's a little helpful.
So, the question is, a new SWTOR player tells you they want to become master of the GTN and make billions of credits. In response, you... A, encourage them. The GTN is an amazingly fluid and open market to newcomers. B, discourage them. Assure them they will make more credits grinding heroics than trying to corner the market on the GTN. C, do neither. Tell them this is a game and not an economic simulator. Now go grind HMKP. D, none of the above. what's the GTN?
What's the GTN?
I hear people constantly saying something and they're like, oh, wait, that's not WoW. And I'm like, I guess I don't get it because I didn't really play, but they're always calling it something. They're like, where's
the auction house?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always saying, where's the auction house? I'm like,
which is like asinine because there's no auctions. In the World of Warcraft, you can put something up and set the price and, you know, like the minimum, but then let people bid back and forth and raise the price like an auction. We don't have an auction house in this game, so that's a simple answer if you know English, but a lot of people struggle with the language. So.
Yeah, no.
There's been several people say that, and I'm always just like, I'm sorry, because like you said, there's no auctions. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. They're like, you know, the place you sell things for other people, and I'm like, the Galactic Trade Market? Yeah, that one. I'm like, okay, let's open your map. You're on Fleet.
Okay. All right. So let me tell everybody in chat. We have echoed the whole set of questions to chats. Now, what you can do is follow Kidley and Marx's example. Pick the letter that corresponds to the way that you would answer this question. So, for instance, if you would say none of the above, pick the letter D. If you have no idea what the GTN is, pick the letter E. All you have to do is send the letter to chat. And here in a moment, we'll tally up the results and we will be able to compare what you guys say in chat versus what the larger community said to this poll this week. We'll go into those here in a bit. We'll give you a minute to do that while we ourselves discuss how we would have answered this. My goodness. Redna, let's start with you. How would you have answered this question, sir?
Okay, so realistically, I would have answered F. Because the real answer is why.
Why?
You say you want to be the master of the GTN, and I say why. That sounds boring and like a massive waste of time. Let's go play a game.
How they want to play.
See, that's due neither.
No, but I don't want you to go grind hard mode KP. Like, give me a break. I refuse to do that also. I'd rather, you know, do anything else.
Okay, so make up your own answer.
But C meets the majority of what you wanted.
Okay,
don't do either. This game isn't for being an economics simulator.
But if I'm going to be realistic, the easy answer is absolutely, and the only right answer is B. Discourage them.
Really?
Because more competition drives down prices, and I want to make more money.
All right. There you go.
Okay.
You're thinking like a Sith, too.
That's right.
Very ruthless of you,
I'm telling you,
scoundrel.
once you play the GTN, you start to go toward the dark side. That's just how this game works. It's the first step. It's a gateway drug to the dark side. The GTN.
Now, if I'm going to be honest, say it's my best friend, and I understand that that's fun for them, and fine, I'm going to be encouraging, then yeah, I'm going to say go ahead with A. I think that, I mean, I don't, you know, it's
I think it's dumb.
Debating over definitions of words and everything, but I do think that I would encourage them because there's an excellent amount of opportunity. We'll get into problems and why this topic came up later in the show, but I do think that actually compared to other games as I remember them, we haven't in SWTOR actually fallen into a lot of the pitfalls that other games have.
Right. Yeah. Elise, how would you have answered this?
I would have answered B, but for a different reason.
All right, so assure them that they will make more credits grinding heroics. So forget the GTN, go PvE. You can get it better off drops, is what you're saying, essentially. And Redna, I think that's kind of generally what you're saying. You know, I asked you in our icebreaker, hey, have you been playing the GTN? And you said no. I've been. If I need to make some credits to offset my repair costs, I go do some dailies. It's essentially B.
Right. Because I don't have the time or patience to sit still on Fleet and do nothing except click through menus and play on auction houses. You know, but I also don't spend my money buying cosmetic things or decorations or all these other, I legit don't use the GTN. So more than anything, I don't really need credits either. The way that I play the game, I don't need it other than for some repair bills, which I can get in 45 minutes, and it'll cover me for a couple weeks.
So, Elise, then how is your answer different?
Barbie dolls, though. My people are like Barbie dolls. They have to be beautiful.
So, my being that I came into the game, halfway through, 3/4 the way after it started. I remember again when I started the majority accepted idea was that you needed to have 5 or 10 million to even get yourself started. if you wanted to do the GTN, because you needed money to be able to corner the market.
Seed money, so to
And
speak, to invest.
and that, when I started, was just like climbing Mount Everest. Like, it wasn't until I had been in this
it's
game
still
for
that
2
way.
good years, right, that I had more than 5 million to my name at any one point in time. So like, making 10 million meant that I would spend my time doing that and not actually playing the game. That doesn't make you very much money, like the story. So I just felt that at the time the game was weighted to people who had been in longer, or were nightmare or hard mode level raiders, or whatever, that I had access to all these resources to make the high level things that brought in high dollars. Or you just had millions upon millions of millions, and you could, buy whole sections of stuff to be able to corner the market on this so that, you made more money. So just for me, that whole was not what I wanted to spend my time doing, nor did I really think I had a chance really getting into that if I didn't do any of those things. So that's why I would go B.
Okay. And so it's more for a story. You know, it's not the kind of gameplay you want to invest in. There's other things that you prefer.
Yeah, and because in general, new players generally don't have the resources that people who've been in the game for a long time.
No,
so it's
that's
something
true.
You'd have to dedicate yourself to. Yes.
Yeah. There are also players like me.
When I swapped servers, I felt like I had nothing. I was like, this is terrible. I have none of my stuff. I have to go get it all. I'm like, this is crap. I'm going to spend money and go swap a person over there. And I filled up all their cargo holds with all my stuff from the other server. And I'm like, whoo, oh, that was a lot better. Like, I panicked. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it with all my stuff. I've had all this stuff for so long.
Yeah, if you're a multi-server player, you're definitely splitting your personal economy. That's why I've always stayed centralized on one single server. I don't play multiple servers because I like to have all my stuff in one controllable, legacy economy. So yeah, I absolutely understand that. Magic, what about you? How would you have answered this?
I would say A, but not for the reason, not because it's an amazingly fluid and open market to newcomers, but it's because I'm greedy and I want a lot of things. And the more people putting more stuff up there means it's easier for me to get the stuff that I want. So
there you go.
It's
like the inverse of my reason.
Exactly. I'm like, I want stuff and I want it cheap. So if I get 500 people putting the same piece of armor up there that I want, they're going to keep undercutting each other until I get the armor at a decent price. So I'll be like, yes, you should play the GTN and remember who sent you there. Remember who your friend is. That's me. Yeah. And I've been really blessed. I've had some people that, like, they have a lot of in-game stuff, like in-game very wealthy, and like they find out I want something and they're like, oh, well, yeah, here you go, I've got like 5 of them. And I'm like, well, holy crap, thanks for that. They all know I'm broke. They know I don't have time to sit there and just grind all the stuff out and make money. So when I make money on the GTN, I'm all like, yes, I can buy stuff and nobody had to give it to me.
Nice.
And actually that ties into a big reason why I generally don't play the GTN is because I've always had friends that I've played with that we all craft things for one another. Like, I don't even when I have done crafting, although I've really stepped away even from crafting recently, but even when I did, and I had the things that my main characters were crafting and I knew that they were beneficial to everybody. And then basically it was like, I would sit around and hold materials and make sure that I had all the plans so that when one of my friends said, oh man, I need this. Okay, it'll be there, it takes 30 minutes for this thing to craft, it'll be in your mail, And me and my buddies, that's what we always did. We always made sure that we had on hand or ready to craft the things that we would need for one another, and it was just a matter of bringing it up. And we didn't ask for credits or whatever. It was just, amongst ourselves, we could provide for one another. And so, again, another reason why I just haven't needed the GTN. But
honestly,
again,
crafting...
fortunate in the fact that I had friends that were willing, that's how we played. A lot of people play the game solo and they don't have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me answer this real quick, and then what we'll do is we'll call everybody's results and we'll talk about those here in a second. I struggled with this in all honesty. I sat here thinking to myself, which of these am I going to pick? And I think I picked A in the end because I would say everybody go jump in, have fun, figure it out. But knowing that there are some people that don't see the GTN the way that I see the GTN. For me, the GTN is the closest that you come in this game to Pazak or to Djarik or whatever we were working out the last week. It's poker. There in my market, it's interesting how I'll put some stuff out there, and then somebody will come along, and it's always the same person. There's like a small group community of us, they're all competing against each other. There's probably about 3 or 4 names I know, and they one of them will come in and will undercut me by one single stinking credit. You know, so I'm like, well, so then I've kept a few back now. And then because you've undercut me, I undercut you by a credit. So there's this back and forth, this parry, and this it's cool. I enjoy it. There's a game, and like it's almost like I don't know. It's very complex. Learning to play within a specific
a lot
market.
of the diehards and the playing the GTN, because I've listened to plenty of podcasts about how to respectfully do it, because there are people that like get really angry or rage.
Yeah, you'll get an in-game email
misbehaving on the GTN.
Yes.
So undercutting by 1 credit, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. They get really upset when you come in and you're like, oh, I'll just take 10,000 off.
You just bomb. Yeah, you bring it down by like 40%. Everybody's mad at you. But you know what? I've actually discovered there are people that do that, and I have come up with strategies to counter that. And they actually work. But that's what I'm doing in the GTN. That's why I want to keep quiet about what I'm doing, is because I'm learning some really cool things in a very controlled petri dish economy that I wish I was able to take out of there, because the GTN is so centralized. So because of that, it creates some market conditions that you can learn a rule set and then learn to play really well with those rules. Compared to outside in the world where everything's so decentralized, you can always find it cheaper somewhere else, but you have to really shop. And in the end, what taxes you is your laziness. You just stop and go, you know what, I'm going to buy this here. But you could always find it cheaper somewhere else. So it's interesting how that centralization versus a decentralization acts on things. Anyway, I know I'm losing people, so I'm gonna stop. What I'm gonna do is
I'm massaging my hand with this makeup brush I have. It's like really calming. I'm like, wow, I'm really getting tired.
All right.
I'm listening though.
Yeah, no. Before anybody in our viewership decides that they're gonna fall over, here is the results as we have them. It looks like 5 people voted A. That's the encourage them option. Discourage them, we had 2 voters. To do neither, we had 1. None of the above, 1. And what is a GTN? Apparently, everybody knows what it is. So congratulations to our chat. You guys are very knowledgeable in this game. Congratulations. So for the most part, people would encourage people to take part in the GTN game. Elise, would you like to compare their results to those of our community poll this week?
Out of 118 votes, A got 33 votes, or 28%. B got 27 votes, or, I'm sorry. The first one was 28%. The second one is 27 votes, or 23%. C is 25 votes, or 21%. D, which is none of the above, got 20 votes, or 17%. And E, which is what is the GTN, got 13 votes, or 11%. So
this is arguably one of our most equally distributed polls ever. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. I'm actually kind of impressed that it also came out in order, A, B, C, D, E.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever made this poll set it up perfectly.
Who did that?
Well, it wasn't me, because it wasn't alphabetical.
Anyway.
Elise is like, oh, that was me. Stop.
I went ha-ha this week, too. Anyway, moving on. Shall we talk?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I go ahead.
Deliberate.
No, go for it. You can take us in.
I was just gonna say, you can't talk about this game's economy without mentioning other games' economies. And the reason why I bring this up is because I've mentioned this more than a few occasions. This was my first MMO. So my knowledge of other game economies is like pretty much zilch. I know in Mass Effect 1, there was a glitch where you could make tons and tons and tons of money until you were capped. Magic Kobe showed me that, and now I can't play that game without being super rich. I can buy everything I want. It's really great. So I know that is pretty good. And then they took away the cap, so the second time I'm trying really hard to get money, and they fixed it to where you can't get a glitch like that. You can't make tons of money. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. However, There's a way to get extra Paragon points because there's a glitch again that if you just keep reloading the same save, it doesn't take you backwards. It just keeps giving you tons and tons of points. So I've exploited that one as well.
I didn't know that one.
Yes, I can show you that one later. I'll teach you this. So anyways, my knowledge of economies is like in game very low, but I will say that I'm the type of person, when I find something that works, I stick with it till it doesn't work, and I modify it until I keep finding something that works. So the idea of the auction house thing in WoW that we mentioned before, I don't know if I would do so good on that because it's based on other people wanting to bid. So if you put something too high, no one bids on it. You got to put it back up at a different price, but someone else could have already sold one because they have a better handle on it and the bids were better. And I guess it's also like the time, who's online at that point, how long the auction is. Like that's a whole different thing. I'm pretty happy with Star Wars Economy, just saying. I know a lot of people think it's crap, but I personally like it. So since Elise has a larger background in games, I'd like to know what Elise's idea is on that because personally, I just know Star Wars. That's my knowledge.
Well, Star Wars is slightly different, although ESO is kind of like Star Wars. But they don't have a public auction house. You have to be a member of a trading guild, which is very like strange the way they do it in that game. But Final Fantasy 15, right, has that bidding system, and so does WoW, right? I don't know. Is there another one? Does Eve use the same kind of bidding system? If anybody has played
You're talking
Eve
about
Online,
specifically about the auction house idea.
Yeah. I had read the first article that I put up there. So Game of SWTOR was talking about economic theory, and the person who wrote that article was very much in favor of those kind of bidding systems because you, from both the seller and the buyer, you get an idea of kind of where the cap and the bottom is of your range based on bids. So they were very much in favor of that. But so, I mean, if we're talking about like an auction house, like an in-game, like trading system, Star Wars is kind of sort of by itself, sort of. A lot of the other ones are those auction house type.
Well, I think a real easy way to describe the way that like the World of Warcraft auction house is it's very similar to eBay. You can put things up for auction and let people, like put a minimum, like you can even start the bid below, but actually for eBay and set, a minimum bid. So, okay, you're going to put it below this, but you're going to let people bid back and forth. But if they don't bid up to what your minimum is, then it's just going to come back to you, right? But then just like on eBay, you also have the option to do like what we do here in SWTOR, which is you set a price and you just say, listen, non-negotiable. But as soon as someone's willing to pay that, they'll buy it and give it to you. And there's a timer. It'll get back to you in your mail otherwise. Seem to recall that World of Warcraft actually had a sort of a credit sync tied into it, though, that if you put it up and it didn't sell, they still kept a certain portion of money.
Like the fee?
Yeah, there was a fee just for having posted it at all. You don't get it all back.
Maybe I'm spoiled, but that sounds like a load of crap to me.
No, I'm all for that.
Well,
they need to do that. Because
they also,
you've got to create some risk on the part of people trying to be out there selling. I mean, if no reward if you don't have risk. I think if you
this is why you get. This is why in SWTOR
there's a huge reward. I made 50 million. That's a huge reward. What are you talking about? There's no risk involved. I crafted it. If nobody bought it, I'd use
but
it.
when you made 50 million, you put it up for 50 million. You didn't actually get 50 million in credits because making that sale, the GTN does keep a portion, right?
Tax, right?
So all they're doing in World of Warcraft is saying actually, so a certain portion is going to be kept out either way if you don't sell it.
And here's the deal: 50 million is nice. It's fun to have 50 million, but everybody's got 50 million, and everybody's then got 100 million, and everyone's got 10,000 million. And before you know it, like it's we're gonna get there. But inflation is crazy in MMOs.
That's what I was about to say. Will that keep it from people being crazy because they will work harder to make them sell? Because it's not like if they keep putting it up there and it doesn't sell, they're losing more money than they would make.
Well, it has to do with inflation makes everything more expensive. I mean, just think about how much armor sets that you got off the cartel market, for example, that you put in on the
I
GTN, how
paid
much it
28
was.
million for Satil Sean's chess piece.
Yeah, and how much it was when that first
And then they list it on the
hit the
market.
GTN.
You can get it whenever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got all these ones that are like 100 million. There's no way that could have been 100 million year 2 of this game. Credits were harder to get.
Right.
People didn't have as much.
Well, also
And
demand.
Mhm.
Like, I have
Right.
stuff from armor packs that you can't buy anymore. And so those sets only came out of the packs that are no longer sold. So if those are wanted items, it makes sense that you would inflate the price because they're harder to get.
But we also saw some downward pressure on that when they put all of the items on sale here recently, and there was
Right.
all kinds of angst about that on the forums.
Yeah,
Which-
I threw a little
which
bit
is-
of a hissy fit myself.
But I'll be completely honest. Screw the angst. That's because these are people that don't understand how a market works. You're supposed to have ebb and flows. When there's more supply, the prices are going to go down, and it's a temporary thing. Like, fine, if you want to be able to make more money off of those items, then wait. It'll come back.
Yeah. In
But
fact, when there's an influx of stuff, that's when you're buying it. You buy it and you
Right.
hold it so that when there's no stuff out there, that's when you release. It's
When the
buy low,
cartel
sell
market
high.
comes on sale,
Yeah,
that's when you buy.
The only difference, though, with this economy is that it is very heavily weighted towards supply, but companies do a lot of market research to figure out what the demand part is. And there's no way to really do that. So you put something up on the GTN and it doesn't sell. Did it not sell because it was too high?
Mhm.
Was it because there's no demand? Was it because you just didn't have the right buyer there at the right time? So it takes you a lot of time really to figure that out
Right.
by messing with the price, putting it up
Mhm.
back and forth. But in a real functioning supply and demand economy, you'll do a lot of market research to figure that out of where your limits are.
I mean, arguably, somebody else might be doing that. So in the game, you have to do it yourself. You're right. You put it up, you have to do that research. Well, was it too high?
Right.
Or was it the man? I mean, like, because you can look at the market and see, oh, wait, okay, there's 500 of these posted. I put it too high. Or there's 500 of these posted and it's dirt cheap. There is no demand. You know, like you do have to do that analysis yourself. There are actually some resources. I know we're all familiar on the Council of SWTOR Economics, but he's a big resource in the community. He's even done cross-server analysis, like server-specific, because each of the servers has a different GTN, and gives you what those, price.
But
he does an economic breakdown, and he actually gives you a good idea of market research.
But is he still? Is he still doing
I don't know
that?
if he is currently.
Because he stepped away from the game, I thought, a year ago.
So I added he put something in. I think it was February 4th, maybe of this year, which is not that long ago. I mean, it's still within, in first quarter, but that was early, still enough within our time frame to where I thought that what he had posted was relevant, and it was.
But was it where he was doing the market research, or was it just a general?
Bit. It was talking about how
post
changes implemented with Cotet it was kind of analyzing how those are shaking out, kind of here on the tail end. So yeah, I mean, we are.
Glad to hear.
One thing that's interesting to me, let me throw this out to you guys for your thoughts, is how much of a petri dish, I've used that word before in this episode, but how much of a petri dish this kind of a thing is. If I go back now, and some people remember Star Wars Galaxies, a lot of us have played that one before. Each individual crafter, as a crafter, you had the ability to also be an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, you could set up your own vendors all over the galaxy. And they were just little vending machines, or the better you got with it, they could turn into people. You could put a guild hall up somewhere, put your vendors in the guild hall, list things for sale on that. And then there was a central GTN type concept where people could search prices all over the galaxy. But then you were like, okay, here's the one I want to go buy. And then you had to take off to Dantooine to go buy it off of that individual, or you'd have to take off to wherever else, Telos or whatever. I forget some of the names of these planets, but to go buy this thing. Really cool. So it was very much a more decentralized economy. And sometimes it wasn't worth schlepping to the other side of the galaxy when there was, I've got a cheaper backpack out there, but this backpack's right in front of me. I want a backpack. I'm just going to buy this one right here. So I think what happens, and that's a step closer to what happens in the real world, right? I'm not going to go looking for through Target and Walmart and everywhere else to find the cheapest version of this thing. If I think I can, and sometimes I will. I mean, you get people, if I'm looking for a car, I'm certainly going to do a lot more of that research than if I'm looking for a coffee maker, you know? Here I'm looking for a coffee maker. If I find this one's reasonable, it's not worth it to me to go do all this research, spend all that time, you know, go far out to go find a better deal. I'm just going to buy the one right in front of me. So I think a decentralized economy gives more people a shot at selling stuff, whereas when it's as centralized as our one is, sales are on the GTN and they're on the GTN only. There's no other place for sales. So if I want to sell item A, I am competing with everyone else who is selling item A, and I don't have a choice. And it's that controlled. Now within that, there's some rules that you can learn and some ways to kind of surf the market that you figure out. But anyway, so I was wondering if what you guys thought of the notion of more decentralized economies, maybe having multiple GTNs. So people would have to search, you know, where instead of one system that you can search one database all the way across the galaxy, as opposed to that, there's like vendors everywhere and maybe ways to find things on different vendors. Does any of that make sense? And do any of you think that there may be some good in that?
I mean, they do that essentially in ESO.
Yeah.
So
ESO had the trading guilds though, and I was never able to get into the ESO trading guild thing. Like it's a guild that exists solely to be able to trade stuff with each other. Correct.
But there are localized. Each trading guild has a stand in a certain area, and the prices vary per area.
Yeah.
So
and maybe they
less
took that
populated.
Into account.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't get into it when the game first released, so I can't tell you then. But just for now, so less areas, the most expensive areas oftentimes are like the end game areas, and then the starter areas
where everyone's going to be.
You're correct. Right. And then the cheaper ones are ones that are out of the way, like a town that's like maybe halfway through your progression through the story, or in the Thieves Guild, where people specifically have to go.
You guys actually remind me that when this game launched, the GTN was faction specific, and on Nar Shaddaa was the only cross faction GTN, and it was separate from the Imperial one and the Republic one, and nobody went there except when they were trying to sell something to their character on the other faction.
Yeah, move stuff across, because it was pre-legacy banks and everything.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. I think
it was the black market.
Yeah,
there on Nar Shaddaa.
Well, I mean,
and World of Warcraft had something similar, where all of the GTNs or their auction houses at their faction main cities were linked, but then you could go to the Goblin Town in order to send from one side to the other. So
those things to me are fascinating.
World of Warcraft also has more of that kind of individual, or at least they used to, right? Didn't you have like people who could like teleport or something, and they could charge you for that?
Yeah, mages. Right. Only warlocks could summon. Right, we've got our guild summons, but a warlock could actually summon his group to him, and then mages could only, were the only class that could they could open a portal and set anybody that was standing nearby. They could right click on the portal, or maybe they had to be in their group, but so they would charge to join group, and then you could click on the portal and transport where you wanted to.
I vaguely remember Magic Hubby saying something about that. He played the game for like 11 years, and he was telling me a bunch of stuff. I didn't retain a majority of the things he told me, but there were certain things that stuck out. And that was one of them, because I played for like the month, the free month. Yeah, baby. I played for like the free month that they let you play. And so his buddy, he was like, my buddy still plays, I'll have him set you up with, if he takes you to a certain place, your Hearthstone could be linked there, and then you could just travel back there, and there's a ton of portals. And I'm like, wow, there's no quick travels? He's like, no, this is our equivalent of a quick travel. So his friend had to like take me to a certain place because only he could summon me or whatever, and then I had to get a stone to be hooked to that spot, and then I could go back to that spot, and then it would take me to other spots, and I was like, whoa, my head hurts. This is a lot of effort. Dang.
Yeah, but that is almost like one of those kind of you know, coming up with your own in-game economy there with that. I don't know if that was deliberately intended in the game, but I mean, that is another example of maybe expanding out and making more opportunities for other people in the game. Back in the day, people used to charge, again, for ESO for vampire bites or werewolf exposures if you wanted to become a vampire or werewolf. I don't think that's really done that much anymore. But
I might play just for that because that was the most intriguing thing I've ever heard about that game. But okay, sorry.
Yeah. So, but I always think that's good, making more opportunities for people to be able to engage in something. But again, for me, I'm always interested to see, and that one article that started kind of this thought bubble of this topic was that very first article. And oddly enough, it's the guy who was the creative director for Star Wars Galaxies, Sakari. And he's also now Crowfall. But his concern in that article was that when you have so many people at the top and it starts to depress on the bottom, that eventually, as you go through time, it tends to wreck the system because you really, correct. Well, and you need more people to feed in at the bottom to want to push up. So, yeah.
And in regards to that, there were two thoughts that I had. Because it actually tied into another one of your articles. But first, the thing that I thought of was actually where I feel in the one market in SWTOR in particular that you can definitely see that impact is in the conquests. It's not a GTN thing, but that is still a market. That is still, for all intents and purposes, it's an economy of its own. And that you definitely see where the people that really figured it out and glommed together and established a foothold are basically impossible to take down, right? It's a case of if you can't beat them, join them. And that, from that depiction, I totally agree with it. The additional piece to that is that a huge portion of that I feel is also perception. So you come in and you see there's all these people and it's daunting, and so you just don't try. Like, you're like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go play some other aspect of the game or focus on something else because I see all of these guys that are on the top and they can oppress me out of that system. Particularly in one of your other articles, it was mentioning the fact that as for the vast majority of MMOs, as the game goes on, inflation really occurs around the currency itself. So I remember at the beginning of World of Warcraft, like getting your first gold piece, because you had to get copper pieces, and once you got like 100 copper pieces, you had a silver piece, and 100 silver pieces, and you got a gold piece, and that's how their currency was tracked, right? Yeah, because it wasn't just a...
It's like the crystals in this game, almost.
Yeah, almost, right. Except that's how their currency actually worked. So then you would have like 4 gold, 50 silver, and 20 copper, right? And you just had to kind of figure out what that meant. It was because whereas in this game it's really easy. If I've got 100,000 credits, it's 100,000 credits.
I want to say Guild Wars 1 was kind of the same way, if I recall.
But then what ended up happening, right, was then you got after an expansion or two. Well, geez, suddenly you're at 10 gold, and that's like easy. That's how much you make just getting to max level, and the gold inflation. I keep wanting to say credits, but the currency inflation, like rapidly, every expansion got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they're adding platinum, and they're adding these additional currencies just because it's so easy to come by the values that used to be considered really difficult. And that's one thing I think that SWTOR has actually done a phenomenal job of actually avoiding. 10 million gold or credit in SWTOR today seems just as challenging to get as it did at the launch. So the notion, now it's also a perception thing, right? I mean, I can do 45 minutes of heroic dailies and have 1 million credits. If I actually wanted to dedicate the time to it, which is why I would actually select A, and also why I mentioned that it's kind of a perception thing, particularly for SWTOR when it comes to credit generation. But to Elise's point, you have to sacrifice other types of gameplay in order to do it. It's not actually very difficult at all to gain currency in this game, which is why I don't pursue it, because I don't care about the cosmetic stuff that most people spend currency on.
Right.
But if I wanted to, I could. I know that I could. And in fact, like when I went around all my characters, and especially when that Dark versus Light event was going on and we had to go 1 to 50 or 60 on every single character again, I took all my characters through naked, sold literally every piece of gear. I didn't equip a single thing. I just sold it all to the vendor as I leveled up, and I had like, I think I was averaging like 5 million credits by the time I got to max level just from selling all the trash along the way and finishing my class quests. So
it was 1 to 50 was the achievement because
okay,
they
1 to
wanted
50
you to get to the original cap.
Right.
So,
and so like there.
I will say though that it's not quite as easy to get 10 million. I mean, it wasn't quite as easy back then because unless you already had a 50 that could do LM dailies and stuff at end game, it was impossible to make money. You couldn't keep enough money to pay for your skills because at the time you had to pay to a trainer to get your skills.
Fair.
So actually,
yeah, the credit seek for the skills in particular was a lot harder. I would say that it was actually still ultimately just as easy once you did hit max level and had all your skills. I would agree that getting there like while you were leveling was non-existent because quite frankly, I mean, and then you had to buy your speeder training and your speeders, and all of that was exorbitantly expensive.
Those were great credit sinks, but they were rough on leveling when you need credits the most. I think they were badly placed. That's not where we needed credit sinks.
I had a friend that already had his 2 to 50 because he at the time could just totally grind and do all that stuff all the time. He had 2 tunes to 50. If it wasn't for him, I would have never been able to afford my repairs half the time. He would go do dailies just to help me when I would log in that night to level, just to be able to pay to get my skills up because I couldn't afford it at leveling, which is honestly, that's why, like, I'm trained. It's like Pavlov's dog now because I'm trained. If I see that beam go up, I have to loot stuff because back then, if you left loot, that was money that could have helped you level. Like, you could get your skills. If you didn't level, like, loot that stuff, you couldn't get your levels in. So to me, it's like I see that and I salivate. I'm like, oh, I gotta go loot right now. And now it like kills me if people don't loot. I'm like, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Oh, I don't need it. I'm like, do it for my sanity, please.
I think they have increased the crafting costs, the crafting training. I don't know if that's true, but I just got my one and only crafter to 600. That was at 550. And it felt a heck of a lot more expensive to go to 550 to 600 than it did before. But I just decided to, because I wanted the deco crafting.
What's a huge credit sink is the it's not the gathering skill, it's the mission skill. Sending companions out for 4K a piece, especially when you don't have any strength in your companions, you're still leveling that skill. That can be quite crippling. None of them are coming back critting either, so it's like, and then they may fail as well, so it's just rough to push through. Yeah, especially that. I think the gathering you can go gather
level 50.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Before you have level 50 Darth Hexed, when you're just leveling a character, it's trying to get your skills.
By the way, I did finally get that thing you can buy from a vendor to get your companion up to 50. I have tried that out. It was successful. It was so much better than the freaking grind. I'm just saying, like, just in case if anybody's wondering if it's worth it, if you've got like almost 5 million laying around that you're not using, do some conquests, get that vendor to pop up for you, and go get your tune to 50 or your companion to 50. So much better. Okay, sorry, off topic. Go ahead.
All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and jump into some of our announcements. I just want to make sure we get a thing or two in. I've got a couple here, and then Redna has one. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew Elise has done a ton of work. I mean, she was putting resource after resource after resource in our show notes. Some of which I had seen before. Some of which I was glad she put in there. It's been a long time, and then there was a couple too that I hadn't seen before that were fantastically valuable. So there is a guide. There was a conversation, for instance, that somebody had on Reddit about how do you guys, those of you who've got billions, how'd you get there? And there were some of them were sharing, and that's one of the most valuable discussions I have seen on this topic ever.
There's a part 2.
Yeah.
There's a 101. There's a 102. I just didn't put it in there.
Okay, well, get the link.
Well, and 101 was more about how do you get to the 10 to 15 million mark, because that's when you begin the process of getting to the billion mark.
Yeah, you build your seed money and then you invest.
You cannot spend it.
So we'll make sure those links, those of you who are interested, are in the show notes. There's a lot of cool things. I mean, there's a trove of resources. Go read all of it, including the article that Elise was mentioning here in the beginning that got this whole kind of thought started about from the pen of the guy that was the economy designer there in Star Wars Galaxies. definitely check all the notes out. The councilswotor.com will be where we post all of this when we're done with it, and we'll have all of those links there in the show notes. Another thing that I wanted to mention real quick, because they are delaying, and I'm not sure everybody knows this, because they're delaying 5.9's deployment by 2 days. Those of you who are crazy enough to try the veteran Isaac's kill.
Wait, they're delaying?
They're
delays?
Surprise, surprise. But okay,
I
so
didn't know they could do that.
I managed to
Oh
get
my God, I
hands.
thought you were being serious there at the beginning.
I managed
You
to
like totally were carrying that off.
yeah, like he was actually shocked about this. So I'm going to put on screen the wings. Is it the wings of Isaac's? The wings,
Yeah.
however. I found the GIF.
Something like that.
We were joking about this the other day, talking about how it looks like a Ninja Turtle shell with rockets on it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it's what
I
it
think
looks
they
like.
call. I've heard it called the turtle mount.
The turtle
I
mount.
think is where I've heard
Yeah.
it before. The turtle mount.
Anyway,
If you've
so-
not seen Isaac's, you don't understand what that's mimicking. It's mimicking Isaac's head and the top of
he's
his
a big
back.
metal cobra, king cobra.
But
Essentially, is the shape.
basically, though, it looks dumb on a humanoid body. I'm
yeah,
I'm
with a
thankful
body
that
hanging
they're
from it.
giving people something, but I mean, when you've got something like the wings of the architect, and then you've got that, like, why waste the
You know
time
what?
and the blood, sweat, and tears you put into Isaac's when you can go get wings of the architect?
It's
on
a
Nim
status
Bontem's
symbol
easier.
either way. You only get it by veteran mode, Isaacs. So anyway, the good news is you have 2 extra days. Good luck.
Enjoy.
You're gonna need it.
Good luck to you all. I'm not
Yeah.
envious whatsoever.
I'm with Elise on this
Just
one.
saying.
You guys have at it. I ain't doing it.
Unfortunately, I know my
Not
group
at
is
all.
not going to get there. That makes me a little sad, but on the other hand, I'm just like, you know what? The group is new. I'm going to have to let it go. We're doing a good job, and just we've
Don't
moved
worry,
on
they'll
to
sell it on
nightmare
the GTN
content.
in a month.
Yeah.
You can't. It's like
He's being sarcastic.
And
again.
I just dropped a link into the chat room that I'm sure everybody can see now if you wanted to open that up. I'm injecting a little bit of IRL EPing here, but it is they call it a hyper immersive virtual reality environment that my wife bought me for my birthday. And though my birthday is a long way off, she's pregnant enough that we're not going to celebrate on my birthday. We're going to celebrate tomorrow.
Sounds good.
And I'm going into a whole VR experience with like apparently environmental effects with a group. So it's a group VR activity that we're all going to be going into, and I'm pretty jazzercised. It's called The Void, and it's a Star Wars VR fully immersive
This
thing. I guess we're
looks
actually going through rooms and stuff.
epic.
I cannot wait. And so my wife actually in particular said, do you ever mention things about real life on the show? And I'm like, I'll take a moment.
Oh yes, sounds good to me. I'm happy to put that out there. Absolutely. So I think that's it for us, right? Is there anybody else who wants to say one last thing on this before we go into Magic's string of thank yous?
My last thing to say is, if you guys happen to see any augments from Lucy and Ordo on the GTN, please feel free to buy them. Okay, I'm just saying.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
okay. Feel free.
Some cross promotion.
That's on
here.
Satil Sean. Anyways, so that's my little bit.
They're gonna blacklist you
Brendan,
now. Watch.
Elise? That's okay. I have tons of other tunes. You won't know.
Now that they know it's you, they're gonna be mean to you. You're gonna get trolled.
I just got an arms tech and a synth weaver up there. They can sell for me.
So do you want to let everybody know that we are thankful that they're here, or are we gonna carry it, Magic? You seem otherwise preoccupied.
Fine. Oh, you mean eating? Yeah, sorry. I have a hard mode right after this, like in 30
Yeah,
minutes.
go to eat
So,
when you can.
or Nightmare now. Sorry, we're Nightmare group now. So, thank you all for joining us and for talking in chat, for listening on the podcast. Thank you so much for enjoying the show. Thank you so much to our Patreons. We really appreciate you guys are awesome. We also appreciate all the people who take the time to downvote us in Reddit. We appreciate that. You may think it's weird, but we love it. You keep downvoting us. We really appreciate it. Lots of love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And those of you who are listening to my daughter not crap over, thank you too. You have a wonderful evening.
And that brings us to the end of the episode. The council is adjourned. If you'd like to reach us, you can email us at thecouncil@thecouncilswotor.com. You can find Elise on Twitter at abrown35, Magic Ace at the Magic Ace, me at R3DN4, and Sakari at I am Sakari. Don't forget to visit our website, dubs triple times, thecouncilswotor.com, and follow us on Patreon. On social media. Also, don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/thecouncilswotor. That's it for us this week, guys. The Trade Federation has destroyed all that we have worked so hard to build. If we do not act quickly, all will be lost forever.
Have a great week.
Thank you, Your Highness.
Bye.
I understand.
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be a master?
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
Forgive me, Master.